Hey guys, how are you? Welcome back to my late autumn garden. I'm standing here in front of the new perennial border and I just want to show you how all the late autumn colors are looking because I'm really stunned by them. I think it's so pretty. You can see in the back here, Bistorita is still in flower, a lot and lot of bloom still to come, but the foliage already starts to go yellow, which is really beautiful. That always has to do with the temperatures dropping. We're still having no frost, expecting no frost, which is beautiful for me, of course. And then you get to see in the back yes, there it is. There's a miscanthus that actually I divided earlier this year. So this was in another area of the garden and it has overgrown so much. It was in its position for, I think, 8, 9 years probably. So it was a good time to just lift it. And lifting miscanthus is heavy duty. Believe me, that is like, I thought I needed a chainsaw or something at one point. I think it took me probably 2 hours to just get it out of the soil and chop it into 4 pieces. But I'm happy that I've done it because each individual piece grown like so vigorous and great and amazing, and this is one of them, and it's beautiful golden autumnal stage now, so really happy about this. Owen Alfie's with me again. Gonna need to play with her in a second. Today's video is kind of like a continuation of what I did with you yesterday. So kind of like a normal day in the garden. So I'm still gonna tackle a few of those things that I haven't managed to get on with yesterday. But it's also going to be a little bit of planting. So by the end of the video, I also want to plant a few fun things with you because I've been to the garden center about 2, 3 weeks probably ago. And all of those really beautiful plants are just sitting down by the slope waiting for me to get into the soil, and I'm really happy to do that today as well. So what I want to do, pretty much exactly same as yesterday, I'm going to flip my phone, just show you an area that I want to work in, and then just really get cracking, do it, and work my way through the entire day. And it's all these small projects I'm really excited about, so I hope that you're excited to spend the day with me in the garden again. In today's project, I'm going to take you to the front garden with me. This is an area that I haven't really shown you a lot in my previous videos, just in the very first one where I did an entire tour through the garden. But you're definitely going to see me doing and working more in the front garden, obviously, because it is still kind of like a really nice and important part of a garden. This is the first thing you get to see when you go to our house. So just to give you a quickly tour through how things are looking. So on the right, I'm just coming with my finger now, trying to make work good. Yeah, there's like a Japanese cherry here, so kind of like a smaller ornamental tree. Then on the left, there is, there is an Amelanchier. So let's start here. There's like an Amelanchier, not grown that huge yet, but still very beautiful. Then there is a prunus, one of my favorite ornamental trees. So that is the one here. So this is like a plum, which has really beautiful flowers early in the year, like very delicate pink, very beautiful dark foliage. And then the last one here, this is the biggest one. This is the willow. So obviously here, still clinging on to most of its foliage, but it already starts dropping then. So if you look down, you get to see already there's quite a layer of foliage on the ground. So it's kind of like gold confetti lying here. And this is mainly from the willow actually, because the willow, it kind of turns its color into yellow, but then it starts dropping the leaves pretty much immediately. So it doesn't cling onto its leaves too long. So this is project number one that I need to do in here today. Just really start collecting the leaves so that the lawn can still breathe and still gets like sun when the sun is going to come out, who knows when. Then I am going to prune back a little bit the prunus, and it is actually the wrong time of the year to do it. Normally, you should prune it around like late May, June, kind of that time after it stopped flowering. That is the ideal thing, but guess what? Each and every single year I forget about it, and then I find myself standing here kind of like in late November around that time, and I'm like, okay, I forgot about it again. But yeah. This is what I'm going to do, just give it a light trim. And I know by doing it, I'm going to sacrifice some of the flowers for next year, but I don't want it to grow too tall. So yeah, this is what I'm going to do. But just so you can quickly see still how beautiful actually the foliage is looking on it. But just go a little closer. This is how the foliage looks on it. Really interesting color play of like dark burgundy plum red tones, especially when the sun comes out from the back. Very beautiful. And even the stems have a really nice color. They're almost like this dark purple. I'm not sure if you can see it really, but really nice dark purple tone. So when I cut back some of the like longer, nicer ones from the top there, I can use them for one of my little wicker fence projects definitely again, because I did it last year and they're like glossy, nice, really beautiful for that. So just swing around, just show you a little bit how the entire area is looking actually right now. So the front garden in terms of colors mainly works in tones of like chartreuse, kind of like sulfury tones from the euphorbia. Then there are hints of white in here, like greenish white, and some violet tones from Napeta and asters. And now in autumn, everything kind of goes into its like really beautiful golden stage. So all the grasses, everything reaches its autumnal colors. So beautiful. And then if I just continue walking, so this is kind of like the side of the house, still the front garden going into the midsection of the garden. On my left, I have beautiful sedum here. This is a variety called Stardust, and that colors up to really nice autumnal color as well. And I have hostas here on both sides. So I'm just going to show you on the left side now. The hostas, they of course kind of like the leaves have gone over now. So here are the hosta leaves. This is how they're looking now, quite mangy. And what I want to do is get in here and just start tidying up because I've mulched this area and I don't want that the leaves are sitting on top of the mulch because then the mulch starts to break down or to even rot a little bit. So this is the quick one. Just really going to get in here, just tidy up the leaves. See, this is how quick it goes. And just expose basically all of the mulch that sits underneath because the mulch is like my winter protection for this area. So yeah, this is basically the very first thing I'm going to do with you in today's project. Just really go into the front garden and tackle it and maybe tidy up also a little bit the topiary so that there's no like leaves sitting on it as well. So all those small things. I don't think it's going to be like a very long project to start with in the front garden. So that was it for the front garden. I'm done with that project, and that didn't really take a lot of time out of me. That went fairly well, maybe like an hour and a half. So, and it was just a nice thing, it was just like a nice calming thing to do. One thing I did that I haven't talked you through in the beginning was just like a look at the bearded iris again, because those leaves were also kind of like starting to collapse. They were mangy, starting to yellow. So really make sure that you just get them up and really expose the rhizomes on the iris because they really want to sit and bake in the sun. They don't want to like sit under the rotting rotting leaves. Same with the hostas, basically. As I said, like there's a mulch underneath it, so when I leave the leaves and everything, what happens, everything starts to break down. There might be some mold in there, and that is just not good. That is not good for those kind of perennials. For the rest, I just leave it as it is. Like I'm really going to leave all of the grasses, the asters, the phlox, whatever is growing here. I'm just going to cut everything back beginning of March, so this is all kind of like a winter protection. But just for those kind of perennials where I know that they will definitely benefit from clearing the leaves and exposing the rhizomes, or making sure that the area surrounding them is kind of tidy, I'm doing it already around this time of the year, kind of like late autumn-ish. One thing, I'm not sure if I told you in the beginning, the willow here is one of those trees that grows tremendously each and every single year here. I think about 2.5 meters. So what I'm going to do once it drops all of its leaves, I'm going to get in there with my loppers and I don't know, maybe something else as well, secateurs, whatever I find. And I need to strip it back hard again. So this is something that we do every single year, at least 2.5 meters, and kind of spoke about maybe this year I'm going to do it even more so and even harder, so that we don't need to cut it back each and every single year. But I kind of said, like, I feel if we turn it back even harder next year, it's going to grow probably 3 meters then, because that is just what the tree does. It's happy as Larry, it's beautiful. But I really want to trim it back because at one point it grows so big that it takes so much water and moisture and energy out of the flower bed that the perennials start to suffer a little bit. And this is like the east-facing window, so in the morning we get a lot of beautiful sun in here, especially in spring. It's so important that at one point the house is filled with sun when the days are still grim and cold, and you're kind of just longing for these longer, warmer days. So it is important to just let down the willow quite a lot so we have a lot of light in the house. So what I'm doing now is just like flip the phone quickly again and just walk you around all the things that I just done basically so far. So let me just quickly start showing you the iris. So this is how they definitely should like moving into winter. So what you want to see is just the fresh green tips basically, none of the old foliage, and then the rhizomes. This is how they should look like. So the rhizomes should kind of like sit almost idle on the soil, on top of the soil. Half of it, oh look, there's another Menji thing here. Half of it is kind of like buried and the other half is like sitting on top of it, so that they can really bask in the sun and just get all of the energy that they need. One more thing I quickly want to show you are the branches from the prunus, because when I was talking about how lovely they are looking, this is the color of them. And aren't they just glorious? Like glossy purple, really dark reddish tone, absolutely beautiful. Really want to incorporate in one of my projects like a little wicker fence or something like that, and I'm really determined on putting 2 more prunus into the garden. So I was thinking next to the garden shed, where at the moment there is the elderberry that is not looking that glorious, so that definitely needs to go, and I'm kind of determined on putting a prunus there, because prunus is one of those ornamental trees that gives you all year interest, and maybe down by the slope as well. So it's one of those ornamental trees that's like kind of sprinkled throughout the entire garden. So here you can see I quickly just like tidied up the topiary piece. So it's looking nice, crisp and green again. And then here the hostas, I just collected all of the old leaves basically, so that they are not like sitting under their rotting leaves, which is quite important for the hostas as well. And one more thing I want to show you, or maybe 2 things. Look, the pots in front of the garden shed still looking really cute. I mean, the white mums, they kind of start to fizzle out a little bit at this point, but the rest still looking really nice considering the time of the year. But what I actually want to show you, I just discovered this morning, and I'm so happy. I hope I can show you properly now, because they are kind of like hidden a little bit and tucked away. But here, the hellebores start flowering. Crisp white perfection, absolute beautiful, really love them. And they are naturalizing here in the garden. They're self-seeding and absolutely glorious. I'm so happy with that. Can't wait for the other patches to come into flower very soon. So now to the fun part of the video, which is planting. And as you can see, I've already got it standing next to me. I'll be planting 2 shrubs, and I'm down at the slope again. So this is the area that I kind of want to build a little bit more. And where I want to plant them is behind the dead hedge. So this area that is kind of like a little sloping down even more, almost like a little trench. There's never water in there, so it's not like a big puddle or anything, but it's an area where you always have like a good, rich, moist soil basically, which is good for most of the shrubs basically. And these two should be very happy there. So what I have is one variety that is completely new to my garden and to me. I've never grown it, so I have no idea what to expect. I've seen it though in other gardens in the past, and I really love it. So what I want to put in there are actually shrubs that give you all year interest. So in terms of like foliage interest or even flower interest, growing habit. And this one here, I think actually combines a lot of those things. So this is a Cornus, and if you saw my previous videos, I was already planting a Cotinus and Cornus up there on the slope. So there was a Cornus Siberica variegata that I planted up there, which is more like a smaller shrub. This here is Cornus Kousa, I hope I pronounce it right. Uh, Nicole, that is a variety. The variety is called Nicole. It's a quite common variety. I read about it before, and I'm quite happy that I found it in the local garden center here, so that was brilliant. They originate in Japan and China. And they have a quite distinct growing habit, which is really beautiful. So in the first couple of years, they might grow quite fast, but a little more upright first. So exactly what these first stems are actually doing in here. So they might grow like 30 centimeters per year. And as they mature, they stop kind of like growing fast, but then they kind of build this pagoda shape um, branches and growing habit basically. So really start building these like outwards pagodas, kind of like very gently hanging. And then in spring, they have the most glorious flowers. I'll just show you the label because that shows how the flowers are looking like. Hope you get to see it. So they're like these big white blooms. Actually, what you see, the white part, that is not the actual flower. This is not the petal. Those are the sepals. And then the actual flower sits in the inside, kind of like a little smaller, greenish. So not so like in your face, actually, but like from the distance, you think that this is a flower. And for in good years, you won't even see the green foliage underneath it anymore. There's going to be so many flowers, really beautiful. And the flowers will be followed by red berries. They're kind of like this little dome shapes almost hanging down. They kind of remind me of like round shaped strawberries in a way, and they are edible. I never tried them. I'm determined to do so. I heard from other people though that the taste is okay, but they're not like going to be the next delicacy. But I'm really intrigued because when it comes to taste level, I like weird things normally. I love, I don't know, I love Brussels sprouts and asparagus, things where a lot of people sometimes say like, ooh, I don't like that. I kind of love those kind of tastes. So I kind of feel that this has the opportunity to really become one of my favorite fruits. I also like service berries, for example. I'm really happy when they start ripening in the garden. And as you can see, first you have the beautiful flowers, then you have the green foliage, then you have the red fruits, and then in autumn, this sits here already for 2 weeks. So it kind of dropped most of its leaves. When I bought it, it was entirely crimson, beautiful. I think you still get to see a little bit here and there. I'm just going to show you one leaf. So the color play in the leaves is really beautiful. They have these kind of like heart-shaped leaves, and then you have all these different beautiful colors in autumn there, kind of like crimson, dark red, a little amber tones, very beautiful. I think when this is going to grow to its full size, it's going to be striking. In terms of size and where you should plant it. So this shrub can handle semi-shade and full sun, both, which is really good. So you could really utilize it in all different areas. It grows to a quite substantial size though if you allow it. So in terms of width, it can grow between like 2.5, 3 meters in width, maybe even more if the conditions are ideal. And height, there I found some different information. So here in the label, it says 5 to 6 meters. Online, I also heard like 4 meters, but I would just go with the label here. So I think it could grow up to 6 meters, which I'm not going to allow because 6 meters is a little too much, but I think 4 meters, that would be definitely ideal. And since it kind of slopes down and leave even a little bit more down here, so like half a meter, I think is still kind of like where I'm standing now. The shrub is going to go at least half a meter further down, which is good because then it has the opportunity to really grow to its full glorious size. But up 6 meters, I mean, this is going to take probably, I don't know, 20 years or even longer. So let's see. I'm really excited about this. I'm really intrigued what is going to happen. One of those shrubs that was on my wish list for a lot of years, like many, many years. Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm excited about whatever happens throughout the entire year with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to prepare the area a little bit. And luckily, I have some fresh compost, some leaf compost. So I'm really going to use that in the planting hole, mix it all under, put some bone chips in there. So just give it a good fresh start and a happy home. And you can still plant shrubs. Shrubs are one of those things where I have good experience with planting them late in the year. I'm going to mulch it then in thoroughly. And this is something this Cornus should get anyway. So always make sure you give it a good winter protection. It should be hardy, definitely down to a zone 6 according to my research. But always make sure that you give it a good winter protection. We're in a zone 7B. So it should be actually really happy here. The next one, oh, maybe roots quickly, because this is also kind of interesting. A Cornus in general always builds like shallow roots, but other than the Cornus siberica, which is kind of known to have like fibery roots and a lot of root pressure where a lot of perennials can struggle with. This one also has shallow roots, but it doesn't have the root pressure so much. So this is actually perfect for underplanting with some perennials. So I always have like asters and things that come from the garden, so I also intend of like putting them in there as well. So I really have this beautiful like tapestry of kind of like these shrubs underplanted with different kind of grasses that come from the garden, just like spare plants basically, and some spare perennials. So I'm really excited about this. Next one. This is what I planted already. Oh, see, it drops more of it leaves now. Next one. So I'm just going to make it quick because you can also watch my previous video. I already planted the Cotinus called Grace. This is a variety called Grace up there in my previous video, so I was talking about it already. Just quickly as a wrap up, Cotinus wants to have full sun. So if you want to introduce a Cotinus to your garden, make sure that it gets full sun. This variety can grow up to 2 to 3 meters in general. And in terms of soil, Cotinus is not really fuzzy, just kind of like a nice, rich soil, well drained. This is basically what they want. I'm really successful with Cotinus and I find them very easy to grow. This one will come with really beautiful dark plum rich foliage throughout the entire year, and very special about this Cotinus is that in autumn it changes its color to the most glorious crimson. So again, I'm just going to show you one leaf quickly. So when the sun is out, they were literally glowing in the sun like rubies, really like gems in the sun. Absolutely love them. So this is going to get a little bit more in a sunny area of the slope. This is my start of planting beautiful shrubs by the end of a slope. So when I'm sitting on my bench up there, I get to enjoy a beautiful sight of landscape and shrubs and perennials throughout the entire year. Planted both of them, and guess what? You can't see anything. They kind of disappear completely right now. I mean, of course, when I planted them, they just dropped their last red leaf. So you get to see maybe one tiny red leaf. Oh, where's my finger? There. So this is where the Cotinus actually went, because I think this is going to be like a nice location. I still need to like get in there and just let down these big stumps from the plums, basically. so that the Cotinus has the opportunity to shine a little more. But this is going to come at one point. And then if I walk over here to this side, there's a little more space and it's a little more spacious. This is where I put the Cornus. So again, there's like the stump still from the plum tree. So kind of like, ooh, where's my finger? This is the plum. And then here, they still see like tiny red dots. Maybe this is where the Cornus basically went. So just step a little bit closer. Maybe you get to see it. Not really, I think. Yeah, but I think that this is going to be really beautiful, especially when you consider the size and the growing habit and everything of having some beautiful things and some interest, some all your shrub interest down here. This is something I was really missing, and I think it's going to be so beneficial. One last thing I was thinking is like down here, there is this really last layer in between actually like my kind of raised bed terrace and the dead hedge. And I haven't done anything really to this area. There were just like pumpkin vines growing in there basically this year and some weeds. So I think what I'm going to do is get in there, just weed the entire area, and then I can also put some shrubs, some smaller things maybe in there. I need to think about it, but I think this is also kind of like a nice opportunity of really utilizing the entire space and making it look as pretty as you possibly can. But step by step, so really baby steps. Let me see when I'm going to do and tackle that project. You guys, that is it for today's video. I'm gonna call it a day, at least in the garden. I'm still gonna get myself ready and go to town, because last night I started checking my Christmas decoration. And when it comes to Christmas so far, here in Gdansk I was always decorating in very traditional colors, like in the gold, green, red tones. And I kind of want to mix things up this year. I'm really excited. I have something in my head. So I just want to get out there and see what I can find. Hopefully, fingers crossed, keep your fingers crossed that I find exactly those things that I have in my mind. Because, yeah, it's this time of the year that really excites me. I love to decorate for Christmas. And I can tell you already there's going to be a couple of videos where I start decorating in inside and outside. And all of those things are going to happen very, very soon here. Just a few words about how I plant the shrubs basically. For those of you who haven't seen my previous video, I always make sure when I plant shrubs that I plant them dead level. I don't plant them deeper. I definitely do not plant them higher, because you really don't want that they sit idle above the soil and that frost can come in and kick them. I've mulched them in fairly well anyway. There's a thick, good layer of mulch on top of it to protect everything. But still, I always plant shrubs level, and in my experience, that is working best. You could tell, like when I was digging over the natural soil that we have here, and then like put the fresh compost in it, the difference in color. And this is a reason for why I'm growing my own compost basically, because that compost is full of all goodness and everything, like a good kickstart what these shrubs will need to thrive in very well. And so the roots, when they start rooting out from their little pot, they'll be very happy in that fresh compost. I always give a good handful of fresh bone chips in there as well. They are organic, and just as a like starting fertilizer basically. And this is all I do this time of the year. I mean, it's kind of moist. It's really, there's fog in the air. There's sometimes a little shower approaching, so I'm not watering in anything at this time of the year. If I be planting in May or June when the temperatures are higher and there might not be so much rain, I would definitely always put an entire can of water into the hole and water them in fairly well, but not around this time of year. It'd be fine. Anyways, they're going to dormancy. So I just want to show you one last beautiful thing of a garden before I say bye now finally. So look here, the snapdragons are still looking really beautiful. And a salvia, one last salvia there as well. Really happy about it. Snapdragons are one of those annuals that are surprisingly hardy, and they really hold upright. And I really want to amp up my game maybe next year. I still want to do the white ones because I really use them for cut flower arrangements heavily this year. But I was thinking maybe some red ones or something else. Just start working on my seed order for next year. I'm so excited about it. All I can say now is thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you had fun with me in my garden. I hope it was kind of like inspirational for you, or you could take some information out of today's video. And I would really love to welcome you in my garden very soon again. Until then, take care. Bye.